Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're taking a look at the 10 most difficult boss fights in the entire Fire Emblem franchise. Before we begin, we publish new videos all week long, so be sure to subscribe to MojoPlays and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. Julius, Fire Emblem, Genealogy of the Holy War. Julius is the pure definition of convoluted, as a smooth defeat requires solid unit management and meeting certain requirements. He was annoying to deal with in Chapter 10, but in the final chapter, Julius is guarded by a dozen Dead Lords, a beefy band of warriors with most of the units boasting dual class types. Even if you defeat the Dead Lords one by one, it is nearly impossible to bring an end to Julius without one particular party member, Julia, the Light Priestess. If you never recruited her or if she died in a previous battle, good freaking luck bringing down Julius. Hope you managed to get power rings for Seliph or Ares, otherwise, you're fighting a losing battle here. Jedha, Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Valentia.
I've no use for any of you, save on teams. Now be gone!
If Julius is convoluted, Jedha is just downright annoying. What you have here is a goblin of a spellcaster who is the equivalent of that one kid on the playground saying, "Nuh-uh, that didn't hit me." Whatever damage you attempt to inflict on him is almost instantly negated, and it's already hard to dish out some pain on account of his absurdly high defense stat. Not only that, but Jedha will constantly summon more and more enemies to harass you and keep you off of him. Defeating Jedha isn't completely necessary to beat the campaign, but if you somehow manage to do it, it does make things a little bit easier. Ashnard, Fire Emblem, Path of Radiance. For some, Ashnard can be considered a fairly easy boss, maybe one of the easiest bosses you'll see on this list. However, it is an entirely different story when you play Path of Radiance on the hardest difficulty, or, for those in Japan, the intense Maniac mode. Under harder difficulties, the only way Ashnard takes any kind of damage is if it's coming from Ike, and even then, your fight isn't over. The jerkwad gets right back up and gets a massive boost across all of his stats. Needless to say, you might feel your blood boiling throughout this fight. Henning, Fire Emblem, The Binding Blade. Just because some of the Fire Emblem games were on smaller systems does not mean the challenge was no longer huge. Indeed, The Binding Blade featured an insanely tough boss in Henning, the boss of Chapter 8X. The thing that makes him a pain in the ass is that he boasts an unreasonably high speed stat and an equally absurd skill stat. Basically, he can attack your units twice within the same turn, and landing a hit on him, in general, is about as easy as chopping up a steel girder through a wood chipper. Attempting it is not going to be a cakewalk, and you might feel like you're ramming your head against a wall just from trying to do so. Takumi, Fire Emblem Fates, Conquest.
Takumi. Yes.
Though Conquest arguably boasts the more visual appealing cast of companions, it also features one of the most notorious bosses in Fire Emblem history. Takumi forces you to hammer through his forces, and it is grueling to tolerate. For starters, Takumi can attack with massive rays of light that will hit any unit that isn't behind cover. Second, he can use a doppelganger of himself to absorb incoming damage, causing you to pretty much just waste your turn. Oh, and did we mention that there are constantly waves of enemies spawning in the hallway? Yeah, it is absolutely migraine-inducing.
I will not be stopped.
Gomez, the Invincible. Fire Emblem, Thracia 776. Once again, Chapter 8X proves to be an infamous mark in the Fire Emblem campaigns, as Chapter 8X of this installment is where Gomez lies. This leader of raiders holds an obscenely high constitution, as well as a massive health pool of 46 hit points. Not only that, his strength stat is high enough to where he could potentially off most units in just a single attack. And because his speed stat is so high, doubling up on him is practically a fruitless endeavor. If you can assault him with magic-based attacks, or a weapon powerful enough like Graph Caliber, you may not have to sweat as much. But otherwise, pray that your units can withstand Gomez the Invincible's deadly blows. Ashura, Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn. She may be known as the goddess of order in Radiant Dawn, but to us, she will always be the goddess of unmitigated rage. Look, we understand that she is the final boss of the game, therefore she is supposed to pose as the ultimate challenge. However, she gets ridiculous without hesitation. Whereas every other unit in the game attacks one unit at a time, as with every other game in the franchise, Ashura is a dirty flippin' cheater and attacks your entire army at the same time with one swift move. On top of that, you can only truly defeat her if Ike is the one to deliver the final blow. Should any other unit try to kill Ashura, she will self-revive with all of her health and make you fight her all over again. The Immaculate One, Fire Emblem Three Houses. Most of us who played Three Houses might be quick to call Idleguard or Nemesis as the hardest boss for this game, but we gotta point our fingers at the Immaculate One, as it is known as. The only way you'll fight this beast is if you have taken the Silver Snow route, and if you did, be prepared for absolute unbridled pain. Obscenely high attack power, ridiculously high defense, several meaty health bars, and worst of all, it possesses the infamously frustrating miracle skill. You know, that one BS RNG factor that dictates whether your target truly dies or decides to withstand the killing blow because, oh, miracle! Totally fair, right? The Black Knight, Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, and Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn. Ashnard may be enough to make our thyroids show, but the Black Knight is an entirely different story in the worst ways possible. Whether you played Path of Radiance on GameCube or Radiant Dawn on Wii, the Black Knight is a force to be reckoned with in both games. Most of your units aren't going to be able to put a dent in his HP due to his absurdly high stats in both defense and resistance. Yet again, this is another boss where you will have to rely almost entirely on Ike, as his Aether attacks boast enough power to put the Black Knight down for good. And can you believe this isn't even the toughest boss in the franchise? Medeus, Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon. Here, we finally meet public enemy number 1 within the Fire Emblem fandom, and he shows his ugly mug across 6 separate games. But the reason we're focusing on his appearance in Shadow Dragon is because he is way tougher here than in the original NES game Shadow Dragon in the Blade of Light. The fight against Medeus is a whole ordeal, putting you in the position of damned if you do, damned if you don't. You can forget about sending any units after him besides Marth, because Marth can deal the most damage with his Falchion attacks. However, Marth isn't exactly a tanky character, and Medeus can easily wipe him out in a single turn, maybe 2 if you're lucky. Have fun figuring this one out. What's the hardest boss you've faced in the Fire Emblem games? Did they make our list? Let us know down in the comments, and be sure to subscribe to MojoPlays for more great videos every day.